This is the starting 11 for Spain against England for the Women's World Cup final in 2023. 6 of the 11 were Barcelona players, with another 2 that were actively molded by the club.
It seems that Barcelona could be responsible for this World Cup win. But how true is that? Is there a way to quantify the impact that Barcelona has had on the Spanish national women's team? To find out, I dug into the data. I looked at spending, playtime, win records, and this is what I found out. Just like any other nation, Spain has an iffy relationship with women's sports. During Franco's regime, it was illegal to play organized women's sports.
Even post-Franco, during the 70s and 80s, the Spanish Football Federation actively stated that women did not belong in the field.
During the 90s and the 2000s, with the rise of women football in the United States, Germany, and Sweden, Spain just got left behind.
They failed to qualify for 8 out of the 10 Euros. Spain also failed to qualify to all but one of the World Cups. This was when Ignacio Quereda was head coach of the team. He was in charge from 1988 to 2015. 27 years where Spain remained a relatively average side, hovering around 20th position in the FIFA Women's World Rankings.
Football managers never last this long without achieving anything. He stayed as head coach because the federation just didn't care.
2015 was the first time the Spanish team qualified for a Women's World Cup. Quereda and his technical staff were terribly unprepared. They tied against Costa Rica, lost against Brazil and South Korea. A shameful, winless World Cup exit. Knowing that things needed to change in order to achieve better results, the players signed a letter asking the federation for changes. They wanted to be respected, taken seriously, to be treated better, and not to be harassed on the field. After this letter, Quereda resigned and Jorge Vilda took over. He kept the status quo and fostered the same toxic environment as Quereda, and we all know where that got him. Under Vilda, the Spanish team barely climbed the ranks. They reached the quarterfinals of the 2017 Euros, they qualified for the 2019 World Cup, but lost in the round of 16. 2 years later, they lost to England in the quarterfinals of the 2022 Euros. This took them from 16th to around 10th. In August 2023, they won the World Cup. In 1 year, they climbed more than in the previous 8, going from a winless group stage exit to World Cup champions.
Was this the federation's fault, that after decades of neglect, they just randomly start caring? Or is there something else? This is where the other half of the story comes in, Barcelona Femini. And at this point, I have to come clear that I am a completely unbiased source. I have never been to the stadium. I don't even know who the teams are. I don't even know the players' names, like Alexia, Aitana, or Mapi. I am just here for the data.
In 2002, Barcelona acquired a local team. They struggled, jumping between first and second division, until 2008, where they rose to the first division for good. In just 3 years, they went from 6th to 1st in the league standings, and have since consistently finished at the top. In 2015, Barcelona chose to act on these good results and chose to create a professional program on the women's side. The aim of the program was simple: treat the athletes with respect and give them the proper training facilities. That is a low bar, but still, it's the first Spanish team that had taken the leap. Locally, they started to win around 80 to 85% of their matches. In Europe, they slowly got better results in the Champions League. In 2016, they lost in the quarterfinals against PSG. Then, in 2017, they lost again to PSG, but this time in the semi-finals. In 2019, they finally reached the final, only to be crushed 4-1 by Lyon. This was a pivotal moment for the team. That loss pushed them to become better and better. After that, they became unbeatable, winning 90 to 100% of their matches in the Spanish league. In Europe, they won the champions against Chelsea in 2021, lost in the final against Lyon in 2022, and won for a second time in 2023 against Wolfsburg.
So how does the data fit into all of this? First, let's look at the two teams side by side.
In blue, Spain's FIFA ranking, and in red, Barcelona's win percentage in the Spanish league. There seems to be a link here. Basically, as Barcelona started to get good, Spain magically started to climb the rankings. Here, Spain had a slow climb, while Barca was only winning 80% of their matches. But then, Barca kicked it into high gear and started to destroy their competition, and Spain just followed suit. We see a clear trend line. As Barca became amazing, Spain climbed in the rankings.
But if Barca players didn't even play for the national team, then what's the point? I needed a way to quantify the amount of time that Barca players were in the national team. For this, I found a great source.
It's a list of the players in the national team that were on the pitch, their club, and how many minutes they played for all of the major tournaments since 2015. The minutes spent playing for the national team is what I was interested in. I added up the total minutes played by all of the players from each club separately. Then, I divided that by the total minutes played. This gave me the percentage of time that players from each club were on the field at a given international tournament. I expected Barca to slowly become more prominent in the national games as time went by. But no, since 2015, they have consistently been on the pitch around half of the minutes played. Even when some of the players were officially playing for other teams, they were just Barca in disguise. Like in 2015, Vicky Losada technically played at Arsenal, but she was there only for that 2015 season, and played in Barca before and after the World Cup. She accounted for 16% of the time played. Or, this last World Cup, Jenny Hermoso, a long-time Barca player, had just moved to play in Mexico and accounted for 9% of the time played.
Across time, Barca has been the one team that has put the most players into the Spanish team, helping them push forward. But this is not a 100% correlation, there are other factors involved. But this data does show that Barcelona at least had a huge impact on the team. The question is, why? Why Barcelona? Why not Atletico Madrid? Or why not Real Madrid? And for that, I dug into spending.
Surprise, surprise, Barca just outspends them all. For the last 2 seasons, Barca spent more than the other 3 combined. But before we sing too many praises, for the 2022-2023 season, Barca will spend almost 550 million euros on the men's side. The 11.8 million euros that Barca budgeted to spend on the women's side is only 2% of that. Imagine what women's football would look like if all clubs spent more than that measly 2%.
Spending more means better players. Better players means a better team. And a better team, people just love that.
This translated to a revenue of 7.7 million euros coming from the women's side during the 21-22 season, more than any other European club.
As I said, Barcelona is not 100% responsible for this, but their success did trigger other teams to start investing. Real Madrid's women's side is only 2 years old, and when Barca decided to start dominating, the federation decided to increase their budget on the women's side.
Pre-2018, they received 3 million euros a year. Now, the women's sides receive 27 million. This is not as much of a victory as it seems, as in those same years, the federation increased their overall spending by a lot. Spending went from 2% of the budget to a whole 6%.
So, good job doing the absolute minimum to support the number 2 team in the world. Just imagine if nations around the world started investing 10%, 20%, even 50%, what soccer will look like afterwards. So is Barca responsible for Spain's rise? Yes, with an asterisk. They have a strong presence in the national team, their win records match, and they're the heaviest spenders in the league. So while I'm not going to say that 100% of Spain's rise is due to Barca, they definitely have a huge impact.